I have some very sad news for you all. You have been let down by the Reform Party. I gave them 18 months to show their true colours. When I say their true colours, I mean Nigel Farage and Zia Youssef.
Reform UK and Team Nigel Farage now so rattled about the uprising within their movement over reporting Rupert Lowe, Britain's greatest champion of mass deportations and free speech, remember, reporting him to the police, that the civil war on the right, well, it's just got dirtier. One of Farage's closest allies, Lois Perry of the Homeland Institute, has claimed Rupert Lowe is now being boosted by foreign interference online. She posts on X alongside this picture of her with Nigel, huge cyber attack on Nigel Farage and Reform UK right now from Indian cyberbots. Even Matthew Stadlen has pointed out that many of, and she's put in inverted commas, the likes on Rupert Lowe's tweets are from foreign recently made accounts. Don't let who is paying for this divide us. Reform without Farage is deformed. Now, look, I've got a lot of respect for Lois, and she's a close ally of Nigel Farage. But I do think that relying on the Russian hoax narrative that failed to bring down Donald Trump is not going to work here. And I implore Reform to stop using the woke cancellation tactics of the left to your own side. Enough now. Seriously. There is one reason why Rupert Lowe is flying online, and it's because he's connecting with those of us horrified by the damage that has been done to our country by our leaders in the Uni Party. A message, by the way, being pushed again, you can see it here, by the heroic US Vice President, JD Vance.
You look, in nearly every country from Canada to the UK that imported large amounts of cheap labour, you've seen productivity stagnate.
So yet again, after claims from Nadine Dorries that he is the UK's most far-right MP, Rupert Lowe has stood up for his position. He's not backing down. Posting on X, I take great issue with this criticism being levelled at me that deporting illegal migrants is in some way cruel or unkind. Why? I read how I'm such a monster for wanting to remove people with no right to be here. Again, why? Because I state it might be 1 million plus people? That's just a fact, however uncomfortable. The number is utterly irrelevant. The principle is what matters. Otherwise, what? Just because the task is too enormous, we don't even try? These people are just allowed to stay hanging around. It's pure defeatism. I believe that every single illegal migrant should be deported along with any legal migrant who commit crime. If a legal migrant comes and breaks their visa conditions, then yes, they have to leave too. Our hospitality and our generosity has been abused for too long. This is our country, this is our home. Visitors, legal or illegal, must play by our rules or they should be forced to leave. Simple. Meanwhile, Reform is failing to shake off this row, no matter how hard they insist that no one actually cares. Reform's Great Yarmouth branch has stood in solidarity not with Farage and Zia Youssef, but Rupert Lowe. Writing today, Rupert is a good man and the best, most proactive MP our town has ever seen. All of the local branch officers can no longer support Reform UK following the leadership's disgraceful treatment of our MP. Rupert has supported our community now supports him. Barry Gravenell added, as the now ex-treasurer of the Great Yarmouth branch, I am disgusted with the treatment Rupert received at the hands of the party. Rupert has been a breath of fresh air in the political landscape and has my full support and backing. And Slippery Starmer continued the ritual humiliation of Reform in PMQs over a situation that was entirely of the party's own making.
Speaker, I come to this chamber, Mr. Speaker, every week to ask sensible questions, and I expect sensible answers. But all I get is glazed expressions and waffle, and from the opposite benches. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Prime Minister a very simple question on behalf of all the net zero sceptics. If we became net zero tomorrow, by how much would it reduce the Earth's temperature by? Simple question. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, net zero is of course not easy, but it's a huge opportunity to boost our growth, our jobs and our economy. And so he knows my views on that. But you know, he complains that our better ideas if they stop falling over Putin. And I understand the member for Clacton wants to be Prime Minister. He can't even lead a party that fits in the back of a taxi.
Meanwhile, Reform's former London mayoral candidate, Howard Cox, has shared with me an extraordinary response he has made to the British Bashing Corporation, which is investigating the party. I want to read some of it to you. So this is from Howard Cox. New chairman Zia Youssef emerged from nowhere in July last year following the general election and appears to have bought into his position and Nigel's ear. What we are now witnessing is another dictatorship and a messianic lead cult modelled around one jealousy-driven individual, the same ego-driven political model we saw in UKIP and the Brexit Party. The much trumpeted party's alleged move to being democratic and professional is a complete sham. Reform needs to put the leadership positions to a vote. Loyal supporters need honest answers as to what is going on. The truth must be revealed now. But instead of that happening, Reform's candidates for the upcoming election are, according to former Tory MP Michael Fabricant, being required to sign a non-disclosure agreement before being approved to stand. And it's by being weak that I believe Reform is actually playing into the hands of the craven MSM who want to bring Reform down. Take this attack from the left-wing Daily Mirror on Stuart Davies. He is one of Reform's new recruits announced in a press conference earlier this week. And what is his crime? Well, it was responding to a post by our very own Father Calvin Robinson saying women should not join the police. He wrote, "I agree to some extent, but women are capable. These women are not. The recruitment system of policing is the issue in the UK, DEI above safety." Now, I thought that's a fair enough response, right? Really nothing to go crazy about. But the Labour MP Paul Waugh embarrassed himself by responding, "If these are the candidates Farage is happy to put in the media spotlight, just imagine what those he isn't might have said or done. Reform need to get their house in order." Oh, do piss off. And here's the thing. The problem is, Reform's troubles are actually allowing the right to splinter. Tory leader Kemi Badenoch, hardly a shining star herself, but she's now attempting to dismiss Farage as some sort of entertainer, a guy just made for reality television, in an interview in the Daily Telegraph today. And the new UKIP leader, Nick Tenconi, is urging those who want to begin mass deportations to come home to UKIP, Nigel's former party. Watch his powerful pitch. But first, the reason you're watching this show is that it's becoming increasingly difficult to trust mainstream media or the so-called fact checkers who claim to determine which facts are true. And there's good reason for that, given the debate over free speech, the controversy surrounding Brexit, and how Trump and other politicians challenging the status quo are portrayed. But I have the solution for you. It's called Ground News, and it's the best way to stay informed and cut through media bias and narrative so you can get the facts for yourself. Go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out. But I want to show you this incredible website in action before I reveal a massive discount. So let's look at this game-changing speech by US Vice President JD Vance. It's actually been my favorite story over the past few weeks. He gave it to the Munich Security Conference. He tore into the European governments. He tore into the UK for taking free speech away, and it was beautiful. You can see on Ground News quite clearly that 361 sources covered this story. It then instantly shows how the story is covered by the media, but broken down by whether they lean to the left or the right. This is called the bias distribution service. If you scroll down, you can see every article about this topic broken down by the political position and ownership of the publication. We can see for ourselves quite clearly Newsmax and GB News gave fair and accurate coverage, focusing on how Vance finally had the guts to point out uncomfortable truths to European leaders. By stark contrast, the left-wing HuffPost claimed the speech left all of Europe aghast, while The Independent missed the lead altogether to focus on Vance's joke about Elon Musk, because they will do anything to slag off Elon Musk. What's more, Ground News gets to know you personally. providing you with the news stories you're interested in while also analysing your own biases. Now, my favourite feature is called the Blind Spot feed. This services upwards of 20 stories daily that you might not be hearing about because of the corruption of the mainstream media. So look, I know you love the news, but you don't trust the legacy media. Ground News gives you the tools to understand the truth about what is really going on in the world. It is the only way I read the news, allowing you to see through media bias and manipulative narratives. It's so good. So go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out. Subscribe through my link today for 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use for unlimited access. Ground News is subscriber funded, supporting my sponsors, also supports my work, and for less than a Netflix subscription, you can get all the world's news in one place and think for yourself. This has been a game changer for a news junkie like me. So let me repeat the address: ground.news/outspoken. Or if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, you can use the QR code on screen right now or click on the link in the description box below. But now, back to the show.
I have some very sad news for you all. You have been let down by the Reform Party. I gave them 18 months to show their true colours. When I say their true colours, I mean Nigel Farage and Zia Youssef. What did everyone expect? If it walks like a duck, acts like a duck, and goes quack, it's a Trojan horse for Islam.
And to respond now, the aforementioned Father Calvin Robinson is today's outsider. Father Calvin, I'm very jealous, by the way, because you're in Florida, because you're going to be at Mar-a-Lago, right, for a big Christian event. So I'm hugely jealous, and I'm sorry to pull you in from the sun. But how hilarious, Calvin, that now even replying to one of your posts on X, having a debate about DEI, because Reform has, I think, allowed themselves to be so captured by what the mainstream media think, the Daily Mirror thinks that's some type of scandal and that this guy shouldn't be a Reform MP.
Yeah, you're right. I am in West Palm Beach right now. It's sunny, it's glorious. I'm loving it. I wish you were out here. And yes, I'm going to Mar-a-Lago tomorrow, and I'll report back next week on how that goes. But you're right. I mean, my tweet was simple. Women should not be policemen. And we used to call them policemen before DEI, and then became what, policemen and policewomen, and then it's just police officer. It's just not a suitable role for a woman, because men and women are different. We have different ways to contribute to society. And actually, women have the most important vocation of rearing children, which is something that men cannot do, despite what modernity will tell you. And so our job is to protect women, who are the fairer sex. This was all known until 5 minutes ago, and suddenly we've got to pretend that women and men are interchangeable. And now we've got women policemen being beaten up and abused and harassed and intimidated when they shouldn't be there in the first place. But this chap wasn't even agreeing with me. He was saying, no, actually, most women can become policemen, but these particular women were no good at it. And like, that's quite a moderate, nuanced take, but no, not enough for the legacy media, not enough for the far left. It's
and Reform have played into their hands, though, haven't they? They have empowered this type of coverage because they're reporting Rupert Lowe to the police, because they are using the tactics of the left. And now, Father Calvin, we see them try to claim, and this is such dodgy territory, given the war against Trump, the war against Farage, but they're now trying to claim that it's foreign interference. Rupert is being boosted by Indian bots, and no doubt they're soon going to say Russian bots, Calvin.
I've seen two takes this past week or so. One, that it's online trolls and they're all racists, and the other that it's foreign interference. Now, if I told you those quotes a month or two ago, you'd say they're probably quotes from Sir Keir Starmer, like at the pedestal saying, it's all the far right, it's all the racists. No, that was Nigel Farage this past week and his good friend Lois. Again, love Lois, she's great, but she's wrong on this. To blame it on foreign interference and just online trolling is wrong. And for Nigel to get up and say any criticism of Mohammed Ziyad and Youssef is racist is wrong. They are falling into the playbook of the woke left progressive liberals, as they call themselves. It's a great shame to see what's supposed to be the right of British politics quickly, rapidly de-escalating into the left of British politics.
Yeah, that's what I worry about. That's what I really worry about here. It's like, come on, let's have a debate, right? Without using their tactics. So let's have a proper debate about mass deportations, about whether it's possible. And every day, what Rupert Lowe is saying is, I'm prepared to have that debate. Here are the facts. Let's have this argument. And what, unfortunately, Reform and the new Reform leadership have done is said, well, no, we don't want to actually have that argument. We just want to divert or destroy. And that's not cool. That isn't cool. And it's interesting, Father Calvin, because Nigel can say all he wants, that this is a sort of inside baseball and inside the beltway, to use a Washington, D.C. term, story. But the point is, it's not to his base. 99% of Reform UK supporters, and remember, a heck of a lot of them are going to absolutely love Nigel Farage, but 99% of them, when it comes to the policy, agree with Rupert Lowe.
Absolutely. And so the question arises, why is this happening? And you said a moment ago that Reform's troubles are allowing the right to splinter. I'm speculating at the moment that this isn't allowing the right to splinter. This was set up for the right to splinter. We don't know where Mohammed Yusuf came from. We don't know why he suddenly invested money in Reform and became one of only two directors, himself and Nigel Farage. We don't know what his motivations are. We don't know why he gets the final say. And when anyone criticizes him or disrupts his work pattern, they get booted out of the party. All we do know is that that happens. So Rupert Lowe is one amongst a string of many who've been kicked out of Reform so far because Mohammed Yusuf doesn't like them. And so the question arises, is Mohammed Yusuf in the Reform Party in order to provide controlled opposition? Has Nigel Farage sold his soul to Mohammed Yusuf for a few bucks, and in return, Mohammed gets to control what would be the opposition in the United Kingdom? If so, it's a great shame, because this was the only opportunity we had in a long time to break the uniparty system. And that no longer is the case, because you're quite right that Nigel Farage has turned off his base and continues to do so. He's going further and further left, appeasing the woke mob, blaming people for being racist, blaming people for being online trolls, and now foreign interference, at the same time as trying to appease the legacy media, the mainstream media, trying to make friends with the middle ground. The middle ground are not going to like him, and all he's doing is turning off his base. It's a great, great shame. But I am genuinely pleased, Dan, to see that video you showed of Nick Tenconi, who's standing up and saying, look, we're conservative, we're Christian, we're pro-Britain, and actually we're for mass deportation, the same as Rupert Lowe. I wish that Rupert would consider joining UKIP, and perhaps Ben Habib as well. Can you imagine the force, the reckoning force that UKIP would become then?
And that's what's going to be so interesting. If Rupert Lowe is actually expelled from the party permanently, he's not going to go quietly, and I don't think he should. And so, yes, that does risk splintering the right, but it also risks creating a new movement, which is maybe a good thing. I just want to show you, by the way, this exchange on X between Matthew Stadlen. And I will just say very quickly, no one should take a word Matthew Stadlen says seriously. So the fact that his words are now being picked up by Team Farage, that's of huge concern to me, Father Calvin, because when you actually look at this thread, there's no evidence. This is just a thought. The guy's a lefty troll. Like, he says, is there any data on how many of Rupert Lowe's likes on X are by people living outside the UK? Rupert Lowe responds, how much of your day do you spend thinking about me, Matthew? I suspect the answer is too much. And Matthew replies saying, only as much as your repetitive, divisive posts pop up on my feed, Rupert. I've been on tour with Prue Leith, having a fabulous time around this beautiful country of ours, meeting wonderful people. Oh, do shut up. I mean, he's such a nasty piece of work, Matthew Stadlen. But the point is, what on earth is Lois Perry doing? Like, he's just asked a question, Matthew Stadlen. He's not presenting any evidence whatsoever.
Matthew Stadlen is a bad faith actor. I had him on my show a few times at GB News. After he'd spent months and months disparaging GB News, saying how much he hates it, it shouldn't exist, He was willing to come on and accept the money, wasn't he? And I called him out for that live on air. So he is not someone to be trusted. But what's problematic about this is that people are looking to him, people are looking to the establishment for quotes to support Nigel Farage. So why is he getting the support of the establishment and the mainstream and the lefty media? That should be troubling to anyone who's been a supporter of Nigel and or reform up until now. But the problem is, you said earlier on, look, I think you quoted Howard Cox, that you said, this needs to be put to a vote. The leadership of reform needs to be put to a vote. But it can't be put to a vote for several reasons. One is there are no members to vote. There are still no members of Reform. Reform is not a proper political party. It's still a limited company under UK law with 2 directors, Mohammed Zadin Youssef and Nigel Farage, and they are the only ones that get a say. And so one part of that problem is there's no members to vote, but the second part of the problem is it will always be the Farage show until Farage is done with it. He will never, ever allow the opportunity for a leadership contest. We've seen the results of this in the Brexit Party. We've seen the results of this in UKIP in previous years as well. He cannot be contested, cannot be criticised, cannot even accept positive feedback. And so he will do anything he can to avoid that.
Yeah, and it's very good that you point out Matthew Stadlen, the truth about Matthew Stadlen, by the way, because Matthew Stadlen is one of those sad sacks who was turned down, rejected by all of the left-wing media, LBC, the British Bashing Corporation, all of them. None of them wanted him. So he's ended up finding a home at GB News because GB News has to have someone like him on all the time to appease their real bosses, the off-communists. And it is sad. It's sad for all concerned, and it's particularly sad for him because he is just a bad faith actor, as you say. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.